Marhaba. Right now we're going to talk about relative pronouns in Arabic, or what we call in Arabic al-ism al-mawSuul, sort of the arrived name or the arrived noun is literally what we're saying. In English we have several different relative pronouns, including who, that, which we use in sentences like I still have the books that I read in my childhood. Do you know the people who live in the yellow house? Do you remember the woman whom we met at the party? All of these would be the relative pronouns, the pronouns that refer specifically back to a noun earlier in the sentence, what we would call the antecedent if we were being fancy about it. So, the books that, the people who, the woman whom. There's always a noun floating back there earlier that this pronoun, this relative pronoun, is referring to. First, before we get into the woods with this big chart, a reminder about what al-ism al-mawsul is not. When we are introducing an indefinite noun in Arabic, and then we have another clause that comes after it, we don't need any kind of relative pronoun at all. We have a separate video on this structure, which is called Jumlat al-Siffa. So if I wanted to say, I have a dog who likes to eat homework, I don't use anything at all, it's just implied. عندي كلب يحب أن يأكل الواجب. I have a dog who, or that, depending on the level to which we humanize the dog, I guess. That's where the relative pronoun would go in Arabic, but because we are talking about an indefinite dog, we're introducing a dog. We don't have alif lam here. We don't need any kind of relative pronoun at all. So if you need a refresher, go ahead and look at that video, Jumlat al-Siffa, because we don't need any word at all. What we're talking about today is sentences that have definite nouns, followed by relative pronouns. The books, the people, the woman, etc., etc. In that case, we do need a relative pronoun in the Arabic sentence. And that relative pronoun is sort of going to be a variation on the theme, depending on whether it's masculine or feminine, dual or plural. We have a separate video about the vagaries of the dual. You can check that out, or you can wait until you learn a little more in class about the dual. The wrinkle that occurs in Arabic is that after this relative pronoun, we also need a complete jumla fa'aliya, a verbal sentence that comes after it. And we need to refer to that noun in the second clause of the sentence. Let me show you what I mean. Let's take this. I still have the books that I read in my childhood. First, I need to figure out which relative pronoun I'm going to need to use. ما أزال عندي الكتب. Okay. Books, kutub, non-human plural, which means I'm going to use feminine singular, as I always do when I'm talking about non-human plurals. So, feminine singular, التي. الكتب التي. The books that I read in my childhood. Now, as fluent speakers of English, it's tempting to say التي قرأت, I read. في طفولتي. But I need to refer to al-kutub somewhere in this second sentence. You'll notice that it isn't really a complete idea. I read in my childhood. What did I read? I need to refer somehow to al-kutub. So literally in Arabic, the workaround would be al-kutub alati qara'tuha. The books that I read them in my childhood. In English, that would be sort of strange and sort of wrong. It would be perhaps a bit run-on. It would look as though we had two sentence-length ideas and we were failing to shoehorn them into one sentence. But after the relative pronoun, alati, referring to al-kutub, in the relative clause that follows the relative pronoun, I need to refer to that noun again. I need to refer to those kutub again. So let's look at another example. Do you know the people who live in the yellow house? هل تعرف الناس? Okay, the people who live in the yellow house. People. Now I'm dealing with a human plural, and I don't know whether or not they are of particular genders, so I'm going to default to the masculine, which is also the mixed gender, and I get الذين. Okay. هل تعرف الناس الذين يسكنون? Okay, the people who live in the yellow house. I need to conjugate the verb for الناس. It needs to be that third person plural conjugation. الذين يسكنون في الأصفر. Now, we don't have an object pronoun here, but I have successfully referred to those people again because this verb is conjugated for them. So the reference to الناس is contained within يسكنون. Think of it as an imaginary hum, right? Who? I'm referring to those people. The people who they live in the yellow house. It's in there. There's a reference to the noun that the relative pronoun is referring to. So I'm good. One final example. Do you remember the woman whom we met at the party? Okay, let's get real. In spoken English, we would probably say who, or we could probably just remove the pronoun altogether. Do you remember the woman we met at the party? But in Arabic, we still need that relative pronoun. So, do you remember the woman? Okay. هل تتذكر المرأة? Which pronoun do I need? Well, it's feminine singular, so I can go ahead and use the feminine singular pronoun again. المرأة التي that we met at the party. Here is a little tricky. We need to remember that the verb for meeting has a preposition after it, not a direct object. التي we met تعرفنا, and then we have, after تعرف we have the preposition على. But we also need to refer back to that woman. So what we do is we take that preposition على and then we add the ha. So she is present in that second jumla فعلية, that second sentence. So we're literally saying the woman that, or the woman whom we met her at the party. في الحفلة. It's a little tricky. It's a little counterintuitive for native or native-ish speakers of English, because tossing in that second reference to the noun we're referring to is not something we do. But these are some simple examples that hopefully give you an idea. of how it works. One last couple of notes. You'll notice that there's a sneaky asterisk here if we're talking about a group of just women, grammatically feminine human beings. We do have a couple of variations. These are pretty rare. Allawati is the relative pronoun that you're most likely to hear, but perhaps someone wants to show off their chops and how much they know beautiful, refined, formal Arabic, and they might toss one of these in. So I'm throwing them in just for you to look at. But in modern written usage, allawati tends to be what you encounter 99% of the time. The other wrinkle that we need to be aware of is that when we're talking about dual forms, we have one form for the marfu'a noun, the nominative case nouns, and another form for mansub and majroor nouns, accusative or genitive nouns that come after prepositions or in an idafa. If you haven't studied case endings yet, the important thing is to recognize these forms and see when they occur and recognize that they all mean the same thing. Just to demonstrate though, in one example, if we were talking about two women. Oh, do you remember the two women that we met at the party? If we are thinking about case, oh, yes. Do you remember al-mar'a? Well, I have a ta marbuta, so I need to make this dual. And in Fusha, in Standard Arabic, I have a choice between an, or ain, depending on whether it's the subject or the object or preceded by a preposition. Here, we're remembering the two women, right? So they're going to be the direct object of this verb, tatadhakkar, and therefore they're going to be mansub. This is a little bit tricky, the order of operations, but bear with me. Okay, I know that the two women are the object of this verb, which means they're mansub. And since they're both women, they're feminine, so I would need to use allatain as the object pronoun, but I would also use the ain ending here. There's kind of a harmony of vowels. Al-mar'atain. It's getting a little crowded in here. Allatain. So ain. اللتين تعرفنا علي. Oops, I forgot my ya there. It would be عليها in the singular with a ya, but here we're talking about two of them, exactly two. So we would replace it with هما في الحفلة. So a very specific way to refer to the two women that dual feminine, we met them, the two of them, dual feminine, in the party. If you haven't tackled the dual, activating the dual yet, don't worry about this so much. Just know to recognize it if you see it, understand that two things or two people are being referred to. If you have encountered the dual and you are working on activating it, remember that in Fusha, in formal Arabic, we need to be very specific about the case and the gender, and we have different forms that we might use depending on different cases. A final note is that in most colloquial spoken Arabics, all of these different relative pronouns can be replaced with one particle. In Egyptian and Levantine, it's illi. Sort of an elision of all these different forms. Illi, masculine, feminine, singular, plural, dual. We're just going to say illi. So I could say in Levantine or Egyptian colloquial, ما زال or لسه عندي الكتب اللي قريتها في طفولتي. Or تعرف الناس اللي يسكنوا or اللي ساكنين في البيت الأصفر. In colloquial, it's very, very simple, and we don't need to worry about that order of operations in speech. But in writing, it is expected of us as mature, comfortable users of Arabic to be able to perform that kind of mental arithmetic and figure out exactly which of these relative pronouns we need.